Hey guys, I can't believe I actually have to sit here and say his name out loud, but I want to react a little bit to Nick Fuentes, to the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, like everything that we see that's happening, online, and it kind of feels like everyone's talking about it. I think what a lot of people in our echo chamber of, information of the pro-Israel Jewish world is kind of not really fully understanding. This is my opinion, okay? I think that all these people were not born anti-Semitic. I think this is a process of something that we've seen progress within the ultra MAGA movement, I want to call it. And I want to talk about the MAGA movement in a sec, and also kind of want to put in a disclaimer that I've seen with my own eyes that this definitely does not represent the entire MAGA movement. But I think a lot of young people have been very frustrated, and rightfully so, to see their American tax dollars going to things that they don't care about and think that do not help America's interests at all. So I'm going to start off by saying that. And I think that, all three people, well, about Nick Fuentes, I'm not sure because I haven't been following him for very long, so I'm not sure. I don't think Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson were born anti-Semitic. I think that this is something that has kind of evolved, and I think that they're not even aware that they've crossed into the anti-Semitic territory. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but I don't think it's intentional. On the other hand, I do also think that they totally see how being an extreme voice on the internet gives them views, gives them clout, and the views on YouTube really do translate into income for them. This is large monetization. Again, I think it is legitimate for Americans, and I'm not American. I must remind everybody here that I'm not American. I am Israeli and Canadian. It's legitimate for Americans to ask, where are our tax dollars going? Is this spending serving American interests? Where I think the conspiracies have turned into anti-Semitism, and from asking legitimate questions to turning into completely scapegoating Israel and Jewish people for all of America's problems, that's kind of how it feels recently, is I think, post-Iraq, Americans, and especially I think all Americans, but especially, these group of kind of MAGA Americans, they feel like they were duped into taking on a war that they think was unjustified. Now, there are conspiracies going around that Israel so-called convinced or duped or ambushed America. Whatever. That they went to war. Basically, the Americans went to war in Iraq based on Israel. Israel pushed them to it. Israel wanted to take out Saddam because it was our enemy. And, this is what the conspiracy is saying now. Now, I do want to preface by reminding people that Israel, seeing Iraq as a threat, just like it saw Iran, never asked for America to put boots on the ground. In fact, we did quite the opposite. We took things into our own hands, and we took out in 1981 Iraq's nuclear facility so that they wouldn't be a threat to Israel. It's a lie that America went into Iraq because of Israel. There is no connection between the two. Obviously, this was Bush's war on terror. After 9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq. I'm not going to go into great detail about this because I just think it's ridiculous. But this is leading them into thinking that America has been spending too much money in the Middle East. And again, that it's against their interests. They should be reminded of why true allyship with Israel is in their interest. I think this is the problem, is that they don't see why it's in their interest anymore. And it is in their interest because, we have the intelligence sharing, we have, the military spending that we do in the US, which, again, we don't get aid in Israel like every other country. America gives out shitloads of aid to all these countries that it receives absolutely no benefit from. The relationship with Israel is different in that it gives defense a budget, okay? and I know this because I literally served in the Air Force in the budgeting department, that money then goes to be used to purchase only from American industries. That's the only thing that we can use that money for. And that money also comes with like a guarantee, this is part of the deal, that Israel will not sell its own defense technologies that are in direct competition with America's to other countries. And every time like we want to sell defense industry, defense products, whether it's from tech to actual weapons, we actually need to get American approval on most of these things because we have that agreement with the US. So we harm our own defense industry so that we can have this relationship with the United States. The United States also gets immense knowledge from the execution of these defense products, whether it's from cybersecurity to literally a gun or a drone or surveillance, whatever it is, because we're operational. We are very operational. So what good is a system if nobody's testing it out in real time, in battle, in combat? So not only does Israel not ask America to put boots on the ground, we don't want American boots on the ground. We want to use the products, and we provide that information back to the American military industry and other high-tech industries as well. We are a great ally because we are loyal and have been loyal to the United States for many, many years. And all those people who talk about how Israel wouldn't exist for the United States, the United States did not help out Israel for like at least the first 25 years of its existence. In fact, there was an arms embargo on Israel in the War of Independence when Israel was established. There was not an arms embargo on our Arab neighbors. So Israel actually, didn't purchase anything from the United States, didn't get any aid from the United States. We had to go and basically get old Nazi military equipment from Czechoslovakia just to establish our country and survive. Our first strategic ally for many, many years was actually France. Okay, the Americans talk about how, again, Israel wouldn't exist if it wasn't for America. It was only basically since after the 6-Day War and more towards the Yom Kippur War that we actually started, building the strategic relationship with the United States, and that the United States would help us in terms of military technology. Up until then, it was France. The nuclear facilities that we have, or capabilities that we have here in Israel, this is something that we received from France, not from the United States. They keep talking, this is conspiracy, how we stole nuclear information from the United States. No, it was France that helped Israel develop its nuclear capability, not civilian nuclear capability. So there's a lot of misinformation. So I understand why people, have leaned towards a certain narrative. It's because they're literally misinformed. Having said all that, we have officially crossed the place where I can be forgiving to people who have huge platforms for saying certain things, such as, I believe that America should not be, giving tax dollars to support its ally in the Middle East. Okay? I might not agree with it, but I don't have a problem with people saying it. Where this has crossed into full-out anti-Semitism, and why I no longer allow them the freedom to say these stupid things, is because it's turned into hate speech that based on misinformation, again, that Jews control the world, Jews control America, Jews control American politics, and that Jeffrey Epstein is associated with the Mossad. Like, seriously. All of these crazy conspiracies that are all super, super obsessed with Israel. And when you watch any kind of debate show talking about the situation, they always go back to talking about how much money is going to fund Israel. America funds like $3 billion to Israel versus like $100 billion to the Ukraine war, okay? Where in the Ukraine relationship, the Ukrainians don't have to only purchase from the US as we do. It's not the same relationship. For many, many years, America has just thrown out money and aid to countries all over the world. Like, Egypt gets US aid. Egypt, which is, you know, being taken over by radical ideology, but that's a whole other video. What I'm trying to say is that clips like Nick Fuentes, when he no longer talks about we know that he's been obsessed with Israel, okay? We see it. Again, there is some talk about Ukraine, but they're obsessed with Israel. It's always like Israel that matters so much. AIPAC bothers them so much. They call it a foreign lobby. It's not a foreign lobby. It's a lobby made up of American citizens. But there are foreign lobbies, right? There are Qatar lobbies in the U.S. Like, and the budget of AIPAC is much, much lower than the budget of the lobbies of other countries like China and Qatar and whatever. And AIPAC's not even an Israeli lobby. It's an American organization. So most people in Israel, by the way, have no idea what AIPAC is. Okay? Jews in America know what AIPAC is. Most Jews in Israel have no idea because it is not an Israeli organization. But then Nick Fuentes goes on and on with his obsession about Jews and not about Israel. And watch this following clip.
What are all of these groups? Who are these people? What are they actually? The World Jewish Congress, the Jewish Leadership Conference, the Jewish Federations of North America. What are we to make of this? This is totally unique. There is no other group of people that does this. I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish. Is there anything comparable for any of these groups? Is there a World Irish Congress chaired by billionaires and bankers?
Okay, so as you can see, he's targeting Jews. The Jewish Federations of America, for example, the Jewish Congress. These are organizations looking out for Jewish interests, and that's okay. And he singles out these Jewish organizations. Again, not Israeli government lobby groups. No, Jewish North American, Jewish American organizations that look out for, you know, Jewish affairs. And unfortunately, Jews are a group of people that need many organizations because we deal with a lot of shit. But the biggest lie, and this is where he's really skewing, you know, spewing out misinformation for his younger audience that doesn't know this, and they just take whatever he says, you know, they fill their mouth and he just puts that huge spoon in it and they just gobble it all up. Do you know how many organizations exist in the world and in America specifically to look out for the interests of many different groups? He talks about being Mexican and that there's no group like that. I'm going to hit my ChatGPT for a second. You've got the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund. You have the League of United Latin American Citizens. You have Hispanic Heritage Foundation, Association of Latino Professionals for America. You have the Latin American Chamber of Commerce. You've got the National Italian American Foundation, the Columbus Citizens Foundation, which is an Italian American organization. I mean, this is just like making the simplest ChatGPT search, and it's literally about the groups that he mentioned that he belongs to, okay? You have the Christian Coalition of America. You've got the Freedom and Faith Coalition. You have the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. There is not a group of people that does not have an organization looking out for its interests. Why are you only singling out the Jews? Why? This is why we call you anti-Semitic. Because if you have a problem with only Jews lobbying on behalf of Jewish interests, then you're anti-Semitic. Again, Nick Fuentes is someone that I haven't been following for years, so I don't know what he was saying years ago, okay? This guy just seems like a full-out anti-Semite, seriously. People like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, if you look back at their old videos and their old things, they weren't anti-Semitic back in the day, or at least they did a very good job hiding it, maybe. I mean, Candace Owens specifically, I saw this video of her from like 5 years ago going on and on about like how, you know, her support for Israel.
Those same Islamists of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib will take the side of BDS to strangulate the only free democracy in the Middle East, Israel, and say that they want sanctions against a democratic government with a moral military like the Israeli Defense Force. They'll call them evil, And yet Iran, they don't want to do sanctions. So it's just everything's upside down.
Because we see usually the narrative, especially when you're talking about the Middle East, it seems that all of the blame, they always want to blame Israel, no matter what. The strangest things, anything could happen. It could not rain for 3 days, and it's, you know, it's curse Israel, the Israel state, the IDF. They've brought about all of this.
Like, what happened over the past 2 years? And again, it's okay to question the proportionality of a war, to talk about how horrible a war is, to talk about many innocent people in Gaza who have died as a result of the war. Here in Israel, we feel that too. We don't want innocent people dying, right? We've been very clear about that. But the ability of Candace to completely ignore facts and to ignore the fact that this is a war that was waged from Gaza, it's not that Israel began this war, right? The fact that she takes that narrative now versus the way she spoke a few years ago really makes me question her authenticity, her true beliefs, if the views and the money and the trendiness are impacting here. What's important for me to mention is that I've had the opportunity to meet many people within the Republican Party, not people who have podcasts and platforms and whatever and claim to represent a party. For example, Lindsey Graham and Rick Scott that you guys saw on my Instagram not long ago. And let me tell you that the politicians, maybe 98, probably even 99%, with the exception of like Taylor Greene, right? But 99% of the actual Republicans in the actual Republican Party want to distance themselves so far away from the Tucker Carlsons and the Nick Fuenteses and even the Candace Owens, because they recognize that they are anti-Semitic, they are promoting anti-Semitic tropes, that they are leading young people into a very bad place where they are confusing them about what are American interests, what's best for America, what is a Judeo-Christian value alliance. And these people claim to be Christians, right? And they claim to... There is nothing Christian about what they are promoting, nothing. And I think that the people in the Republican Party recognize that. Now, I say all this without trying to belittle what is happening on these podcasts and on these YouTube channels and across social media, because these people have massive amount of views, massive amount of influence. And the people watching them are the people at the end of the day who are going to go vote, which is scary. I'm not going to lie. This is scary. And the amount of pressure that they might feel from this younger group, this kind of broken off group, extreme group of the Republican Party, might in turn end up creating pressure on the party that in order to get votes, people will have to appease them and speak to them. So I don't want to belittle this. This is serious and we need to tackle it. I just wanted to get on here and just kind of mention it because everywhere I go recently, it just feels like everyone's talking to me about Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and Candace Owens, and I don't want to be talking about them. Just the fact that we can name the three shows that this is not widespread, right? If I was going to go on and on and on and on, then I'd be worried. These are three people who are insane and basically using their platform to spread vile hate and conspiracies instead of inviting someone who has a completely opposing view to them to hear their view, to listen. They just choose to platform each other and their own radical voices. These people worry me, but I think a much bigger problem, if we zoom out a little bit, I think a much bigger problem that we have as Jews and as the state of Israel is the lack of complete support in the Democratic Party. That scares me way more, because Israel has to remain something that is a consensus in American politics. And the fact that we have kind of put all our eggs in one basket over the past 2 years, I think that is a very dangerous place, not a smart place for Israel to be in. And instead of amplifying the hate coming out of the three I just mentioned, I think we should go back to finding out how we can build bridges with the Democratic Party and with, and obviously strengthening and maintaining the ties with the normies of the Republican Party. All right, that's it. Those were my 2 cents for today. I love you all, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.